Good morning, everyone. It's 10:09 on Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. This is Kane County's Administration Committee. I'm Deborah Allen, Chairman. We have our experts, Mr. Roger Fonstock with us, Mr. Ricky Sparks with us. Gabriella Figliozzi is our recording secretary, and would you be willing to take the roll?
Kopi,
Here.
Davist,
Mr. Davis?
Davis here.
Good.
Roz,
Here.
Caius,
Caius present.
Leonard,
Here.
Martin.
Present.
Okay, you have a quorum?
Welcome, everyone. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of July 16th, 2020. We had some minor changes to those. And may I have a motion to move the minutes? Mr.
Sorry,
Caius?
Madam Chairman, was that for June?
Both were sent out.
Right, are we doing June or July first? Which do we have to approve? One, we have to approve them in order or together or
We can do it together if that's.
separately?
Okay. All right. I'm going to move them together unless the committee wants.
I'd like to have them separately, please.
All right, well then, let's just do that. Okay, so a motion to approve June minutes, and I don't remember the date.
June 10. Oops, sorry.
Thanks. Okay. Motion to approve the June minutes as amended. Mr. Caius, Mr. Frost seconds. Any more discussion on those minutes? Mr.
Just-
Caius?
It was Mr. Martin that had a question about the modifications on that, and I just want to make sure that Mr. Martin is satisfied with the inclusion of the amendments. That's why we postponed it last time. So on the record, Mr. Martin says yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Martin is satisfied? Okay. All right. We do a roll on the minutes? Okay. Any more discussion on June's minutes? Gabriella, would you call the roll?
Kopi,
Here. Yeah, or present. Yes.
Davist,
Davis, yes.
Roz,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Okay.
And then a motion on the July minutes. Mr. Caius moves, second. Mr. Frost, any discussion on the July, Mr. Caius?
Yes. Just really quickly, in item number 1, usually there's an attendance list that's for those that are attending. I believe we're all present at that meeting. That was omitted. So the inclusion of the box that has the attendance in it should be included in the
Okay.
in the minutes in an item number 1.
Okay, any objection to that change? Is that manageable?
I can put it right in.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just, yeah.
We have a new employee, so the training. is-
Sure, sure. And then secondly, in item number 2, it actually was, we didn't vote to table it. Moved to actually approve the minutes, and then I think the chair tabled without a vote. So there was no vote in that. To table it.
I believe it was tabled for 30 days. That's what I heard in the recording.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
In the recording, it was tabled for 30 days essentially, and so we just. went
Correct.
ahead and voted to
By
table
the
it for
chairman,
30
as
days.
opposed to, there was no vote taken. The vote was,
Table for 30 days.
it was tabled by the chairman. I moved to adopt it, or to accept it, and I think Froz actually was the second on that, but that did not, there was no vote to adopt it. It was tabled by the chair
Okay,
after discussion.
I'll have to re-listen to the recording to verify. That's fine.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Further discussion? We can move forward with that?
We can, yeah, if you're
Let's-
happy with it.
Okay,
that's
let's,
And so I moved with with those modifications,
Okay.
if that's okay.
okay, thank you. And Mr. Frost seconded.
I will do
Roll
that.
when you're ready.
Yep. Kopi,
These are the
Yes.
July minutes?
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Roz,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have, well, the finance reports are in the package. The person available to make public comment would be our chairman, if he cares to do that. We will move on to facilities management. Mr. Sparks, do you want to lead us through any progression on capital projects?
Yes, so for Building C elevator renovation, that is not started yet, but material is on their way, so we should be receiving those sometime this week to get started on that project. Building B elevator renovation is complete. There's some minor punch list items that has to be completed on there. We have Building C, the HVAC improvement, that has just been vetted, so we have that back from the state's attorney's office. The health department elevator renovation is complete. The health department roof is started, so that's in process. I'm gonna skip down to a couple other things here. We have the electrical vault repair over at the Old Third Street location. So that project is in process. And then we have the ADA sidewalk at the sheriff department that is uh, pretty much 95% complete. There's a few minor things that have to be completed on that. I do have, for the electrical vault, I have a slide deck that I would like to show. I know Ms. Allen and Drew took a visit over there when we first started looking at back in March. I'd show you the progress on that. So if we could bring that up real quick. Yes. So if you take a look at that and you can step through the slides, Roger, this is what it looked like before. You had 2x4s holding this thing up, which was very dangerous. And you can click next one. Next, you can keep going. So this is where the new, this is where we are right now. So they're moving forward with this. They've taken off the top layer and the cap. So they're refurbishing that and renovating it. So it's going to be a pretty good deal when we get done. So we click to the next one.
Just for reference, the orange tube to the right is our fiber.
Yes.
Don't cut that.
Yes, so you can see that. So that's what's going on right now, and you can keep going, Roger.
I believe that's the end.
Yep, so that's where we're at with that. And then our biggest project, I call it a capital project, was at the multi-use facility that's going on currently right now. I know those that are on the committee, I sent out a PowerPoint slide deck last night, along with some safety precautions in terms of if you want to take a tour of the site while it's under construction, that there's some protocol that we have to take. There's some key individuals that have volunteered to take you on that tour. There's hard hats and reflective vests that has to be worn while you're on site. So Roger, if you can show where we are right now. This is what's happened over the last week or so with the steel installation.
Yeah, thanks for sending this out. Looks like a lot of steel.
How far do you want to go?
Oh, that's not the right one.
All right. Got another one. Oh, I see it. Okay. Is that it?
Yes,
There we
that's
go.
it.
Okay.
So that's when they were delivering the steel. They were dropping off truckloads of steel all around, laying them in their in key positions where they're going to go and be installed. You can just click through.
last one.
Okay,
Wow.
all right. I don't know, Drew, if you want to talk about the tours and things like that.
Yeah, if anybody wants a tour, give me a call, and if I'm not available, there's others that will do it. But we do have to wear the hard hats and the vests, and I carry several sets in my truck with me, and we have several sets on site in the construction trailer. But we just can't have people showing up and walking around under beams and so forth. So let me know if you're interested in doing that, and we'll get it taken care of. But our subcontractors have been just phenomenal. You saw how fast the concrete panels went up a few weeks ago, and now that steel all went up in about 5 days?
Yeah, 5 days.
I think Ricky said they even worked Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
Which is unheard of in commercial construction on Sundays, but it's moving right along.
Is this as good a time as any to say that we'll plan our opening celebration or, thank God we got to this point, celebration for after county board meeting, September 8th, I think it is. Let's see, in just thinking it through, chatting a little bit, I think it's appropriate for the chairman to welcome us all and for the coroner to say a few words, the sheriff to say a few words, Mr. Sparks to say a few words. Drew, of course, I want you to make some comments if you're willing to. Let's see, we should make sure that the mayor of St. Charles is invited. Mr. Oberweis, with a little luck, some money's going to come our way. We could see if that would fit into his schedule. Mr. Kenyon said he wanted beer and cookies. I'm not sure we can do the beer, but we might be able to swing the cookies and ice water. Anybody have suggestions as to things that they would like to?
I would just mention some of the past members of this committee. I can't remember, but people that were on the committee during the early stages of this project, previous administration. I mean,
Do you remember which district this is in, Drew?
I'm sorry, Mr. Davis?
Sorry, I was just
you're
poking
invited.
a little fun there. I think it's in my district.
Okay. Well, if anyone has suggestions, we'll try and put together a small program and, oh, and something that somebody else said to me was that even though there was a delay to September, they thought that there were some people who might otherwise attend the meeting remotely who now would come because they'd want to be on site to celebrate with this with us. So open to any suggestions, so please let us know. Shall we move on to the next item or?
Yes, there's actually 2 items for the sheriff.
Oh, wait, one other thing I wanted to say, when you were showing pictures of the inside of the vault, I just want to say to anybody who hasn't been in the bottom of the courthouse, that picture does not tell the true tale. That place is meticulous. It is swept, it is polished, it is tidy, except for the detritus around the bottom of the vault. That whole area is just unbelievably cared for. So thank you for making that look so terrific. And then the other question is, when this is all done, do we have in mind that vehicles will go back to driving over it, or will we try and keep vehicles off of that area?
No, they would be able to drive over it. It'd be reinforced pretty much the way it was before it went into dismay. So
Okay, so if the FedEx truck is parked there, you're not going to worry in the future?
not going to worry in the future.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Now, forward.
So the next 2 items are for the sheriff. One, I think, Ms. Allen, you were copied on this late last night, around 18. This is emergency purchase affidavit regarding a magazine bunker for explosive items. So about in March, there was a flood at their existing location for these materials, and it destroyed that magazine bunker. So now they have a need to have one replaced, and this one's going to be located on a site near the multi-use building, near the berms. So the sheriff is paying for it. It's $126,000, and I think Drew is aware of it. We have Ed Kadich here to speak on it as well. So we want to move this forward so that it goes to the next meeting so it can be approved there.
Um, I have um, a logistics question. This, if this is not on our agenda, and does it need to come back here at some point, or can we?
I think we
I
can
need a
give a
state's attorney.
consensus to move it forward.
Teresa, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, this is just for informational purposes only, to get a consensus vote from the administration committee, knowing that this came up at the last minute. So once it'll move forward, I believe it's going to additional public safety tomorrow as an informational purposes also, but it will be going to the finance committee.
Okay, there we go. So it can be approved there and still get on the agenda. Okay. All right, fine. Questions on this project for Mr. Frost?
Maybe we could ask Mr. Kadich from the sheriff's office to tell us what the magazine is used for.
Okay,
And I can give you a little background on how we came up with the numbers.
that's good. Thank you, Ed. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, everyone. The explosive magazine is used to store all of the explosive breaching items that the EOD bomb unit of the sheriff's office uses. So when they pick up suspected explosives from anywhere within the county, grenades, what have you, they usually use explosives to detonate those explosives. We do not do that on site there, but this is merely to store the explosives that we use to get rid of other explosives as they come in. It's also a magazine used to store all of the explosives that we use for the explosive breaching that the SWAT team uses, whether they're going to blow doors off, blow holes through walls to get into an area, so on and so forth. So the Illinois Department of Natural Resources regulates the storage of these explosives, and they are the one guiding us on what we actually are required to have for adequate storage. Since the March flood, the Illinois DNR has been involved heavily with this project, and they said in order to prevent any future problems, we needed to improve the current site of where the magazine was, so this didn't happen again. We discussed the enormous expense to do that, and currently the site is adjacent to the St. Charles Rifle Range on Route 38. So the consensus was, if the county is going to spend money to improve a site to meet the DNR requirements, we should do it on county property.
Okay.
So that's how we came to
And
this.
Ed, this is coming out of the sheriff's budget, correct?
Sir.
Not the contingency of the building?
No, sir.
So if you've been over to the site, southeast of the JJC, which would be northeast of the new building, there's a clay hill, which is the excess fill from the project we're currently working on. And that was to be just shaped when the job's all done and they know what they need or don't need as far as excess clay. That will just be shaped into kind of a berm or a hill over there. So when they came to us, it was almost a perfect place to put this magazine. So we met with Campton Construction, who's the site contractor. We're working with a very simple, we're not calling in a civil engineer or an architect or anybody. It's just 5 guys standing on the hill talking about how they want it done with some sketches. So Campton gave us a bid, and Sheriff apparently has approved it. And this would be just sort of tucked into the hill. And the idea is, if for some reason the magazine fails or there's an explosion, it's recessed down into a hole essentially, so the blast would go up. And I think we're going with the concrete block option.
Yes,
So-
originally when the bunker was installed at the Fabian Parkway project location, it did have the concrete blocks and bunkers. When they moved it to the St. Charles location after the sheriff's office location was abandoned in 2009, they didn't go to the expense of doing it properly. We would like to, again, to do it properly.
So this would be a long-term, multi-decade solution. And the nice thing is, it's right up the hill. You could literally walk from where the bomb squad will be stationed up the hill to where this bunker will be. And if you recall, there's a temporary construction road coming off of Brisher just for construction. And we're going to use the gravel from that road when we're done with it to make the road up to the magazine. So we're essentially recycling gravel that would have had to been hauled off site and disposed of. So about as tight as we can make it on the money, and we're getting the top of the line facility.
And as I mentioned earlier, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources has been involved with this since the get-go. And they're the ones that also walked the site with us and gave us approval for the location.
Just because I have visual problems, can you tell me, I know that we're doing some detention area, and is this, where is this in relation to that?
From the new building facility, this would be essentially at the northeast corner of our construction site.
Okay,
So the
Oh,
detention,
cool.
detention is to the
Okay,
southeast, and this is on the hill to the northeast. So we're actually on the highest point on the property, I believe, natural point anyway, so there's no chance of it ever flooding.
okay, cool. Okay, thank you, Ed. That's great.
Just a couple of questions, if you would indulge me. When we left when we moved from the old location and redid the munitions bunker a few years ago, I guess I was under the impression that we did a proper one then, but it's sounding like it's substandard, or not everything it should be. Is that? Can you?
I'd
Should
have
you
to let
clarify
Ed
for me?
answer that question. I just know that there was a flood event over by the shooting range that flooded it.
When
Oh,
they,
that's okay. I'm sorry, I missed that part.
yeah, when they did it, Mark, they did it as cheaply as possible to get it done. They did it
No.
adjacent to the St. Charles Range where they were building a bunker, but
Yeah.
obviously due to the flooding, it wasn't done properly.
I see. Okay, all right. Thank you for that update.
Thanks, Mr. Davis. Other questions, Mr. Leonard?
Yes. So, Madam Chairman, all we need here is a consensus because it is on the JPS agenda tomorrow, a resolution for this.
Okay,
So to move forward, we just need a consensus.
fine, good. So this is information.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Any other questions while we have our experts here? Mr. Caius?
Just a question. It seems, I just pulled it up on the map here. It's a very isolated, even though it sounds like it's in the middle of, or on the edge up there, it's isolated from any residences and affected properties that way.
Yeah, the bomb squad,
correct?
Captain Tyndall, spec'd it out to be the right distances from the closest residential neighbor, so it
like
meets,
it's quite a
it meets all the federal requirements.
That was one of the highest requirements for the DNR is residential area. That's why they were invited to the site to look at it and give us their stamp of approval.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Sorry for the last minute surprise, but we'll work our way through it. Go right ahead.
Oh, no, nothing.
Okay, that's just. Well, let me ask, is there anyone who is not in favor of our moving forward with this program? Okay, it seems like everyone's on board. Good. Mr. Sparks, did you want to, is the suicide awareness rally, is that the next thing, or did you have
Yeah,
something else?
that was the next thing, the suicide awareness outreach rally. This is something that the sheriff is supporting, and it's basically what it is they're gonna gather in front of the sheriff department, and then they're gonna take a trip to whatever site the suicide prevention organization is at.
They mentioned in their paperwork that they were hoping for an escort, and the sheriff is willing to work that out, or,
He said he's supported. and
okay.
He's on
It's
board.
it's not something we can direct, we can just give approval for the thing. Anyone have any questions on this request for starting, let's see, they want to start at the JC campus using the parking lot, and then they want to move away from there down to the suicide prevention
Center.
headquarters at
Yes.
Batavia?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any questions on this? Can someone move this as something they would like to do? Mr. Froz moves, Mr. Caius seconds. Any more conversation on this? Gabriella, would you call us?
Kopi,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Roz,
Yes?
Caius,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin. Allen.
Yes. Good. Anything else, Mr. Sparks, that you wanted to talk about at this time?
No, I think that's it for facilities management.
Okay. Is this the first time we haven't had resolutions? This is kind of amazing. And Mill Creek is doing okay. We passed a lot of stuff for them yesterday.
Yes, Mill Creek is doing okay, with the exception is our area coordinator has resigned as of yesterday. So I will be looking to fill that position, or I do have another plan that I may bring forward at a later time.
Okay. Right. An expensive thing or?
No, a money saving plan.
And we don't have vehicles. And under construction, Drew, do you want to say anything in addition to what you've already said?
Well, pretty much everything's been said.
Okay, good. Lots of steel, lots of concrete. All right, then let's move on to how we want to go forward with the old jail site. We refer to that as the Fabian property, approximately 40 acres. I passed out, I worked on a resolution for today, which is in the package. And then Mr. Caius was kind enough to make some really helpful edits, which is the hard copy redline version that I came to you as email, and I also have hard copies. Does anyone want a hard copy who doesn't have it? Have a few extra copies, okay. So this is a starting point for our discussion. This resolution would conceivably go to the board, asking them to direct us to set up a committee of the whole or a planning meeting so that the full board could discuss what the choices are and where they would want to go with this. I included also the suggestions that we had talked about in the second, be it further resolved paragraph. And Ricky brought us in some new evaluations from the people that we had talked to before. Everybody get a chance to look at this? Okay. All right, so just trying to, I don't have a quick enough eye to see these values in terms of, it looks like residential is more valuable in the long run than commercial.
Generally speaking. Madam Chairman,
Yes, go right ahead, Mr. Davis.
I guess I'm still a little confused as to the approach that abandons our normal committee process. This is an item that rightfully comes before the administration committee. I would expect, as in discussions we've had previously, that we would look at it and vet this issue pretty thoroughly and present our thoughts and recommendations to the next larger group. And of course, eventually, as it goes through the committee process, the entire board will in fact see it, weigh in on it, and ultimately vote on it. But to do it this way, when you have an issue like this, really can, has the potential to bog things down tremendously. So I'm not convinced that we're taking the right approach, but I'll certainly defer to the committee and see if there's any other thoughts on that matter.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. I know that there are members of the committee who wanted to sell the property yesterday, but there are also members of the committee who have said to me that they think that this should be something that the full board discusses thoroughly before going forward. So let's go forward and have that conversation. Mr. Davis, you're saying that the committee should recommend that we should recommend to the full board that we sell the property.
Well, that may be my personal position, but what I'm saying is that the committee should have a recommendation that comes out of, out of our committee one way or the other, as opposed to let's open this to the entire committee and have all of the discussion that way first. In other words, we achieve some of the focus and do some of this legwork and evaluation at the individual committee level first, as we would normally do, and come out of committee with a recommendation, which at the will of the committee could be to sell or not to sell, and it moves on to the next step. Yes, I'm of the opinion that we should make it available to sell and surplus this property, but it should be the will of this committee.
Okay, so you're saying that if we vote on this resolution, and I'm going to suggest that we vote on the red line version because I think it's really, really good, then you would vote against it because it's not a direct recommendation to the county board. So am I correct? Am I understanding what you're saying?
Yes, you are. That is my feeling still on this matter.
Okay. Well, are we ready to vote on this resolution, or do we want to have other conversation on it? Oh, sorry, Mr. Martin, go right ahead. Sorry.
In deference to the conversation that we've been having,
A little closer to your mic?
my clear recollection is that at least for 2 meetings, the majority consensus of the committee has been that we wanted to have to vote on, so that people could express their varying opinions in the vote, a motion to move this forward. And this, to Mr. Davis' point, not only doesn't move it forward, it bogs it down, because we're moving it now to the board to ask permission to have a committee of the whole where 24 people are going to sit around and offer opinions. And then it's going to come back with no clear direction. And once again, we're going to have the assigned responsibility of deciding what to do. This committee's task, as in all committees, in my mind, is to make a recommendation that can be considered by the board. And if we're not, and this simply doesn't do it. It simply doesn't do it. It simply says to the board, let's talk about it, and then we'll come back. So I will vote against it, should it come up for that reason.
Okay. I understand that position. That was not the position of everyone on the committee. So I brought this to us so that it has every position, and we're welcome to discuss it today and to make alterations. And I'll take a vote on this today. And if it's voted down, then we can certainly continue to amend it until we get something that we all like. My goal here was to include everything that I heard from the committee. And the majority of the people that I heard from was that, well, there are some who don't want to sell it, but there were others who said, I might be willing to sell it, but not until the board talks about it. So my goal was to get this in front of the board so we could talk about it. Mr. Copey?
Thank you. I sense this invention of urgency. We've owned the property for 50 years. We have not yet vacated the property. There is an array of considerations that we need to delve into and analyze. We haven't had an opportunity to discover whether this document here with the pricing is accurate or not. This is the first time I've seen it. We've owned it for 50 years. What difference does it make? What difference does it make if it takes a year to evaluate whether we're going to sell Fabian or not? We have, and I've even had to endure comments about how we're derelict in our duty. And this, and in one hat, we wear the Forest Preserve hat, and we've got this ancient oak grove down at one end of the property, and we spend millions and millions and millions of dollars preserving properties like that. And here's one, and we have this urgency to give it to a private enterprise who has no obligation to preserving that forest. And then we've got individual lots. We have the tower to consider. We have, let's see, we wrote some notes. We got the natural aspects, the operating business revenue. We got the depressed economy that we're dealing with right now. We've got the expanded future needs of the county, perhaps. We've got open space value that is a consideration to some people. It's the people own the property. It's the people's property. And the people own the rights to that enterprise. And to say, no, we're wasting time today and the clock is ticking. We need to move that into private ownership as fast as we can with this resolution, which has got lines crossed through it and red marks and no more lines crossed through it. And this is, what is this? Are you kidding me? No, thank you. I think I've said enough.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Copey. Can I ask, does anyone feel like they want to plug in a dollar amount at this stage of the game based on this? What would you recommend to the full board that we list the property at? Mr. Frost?
Several things. We keep, you keep going back to this. And I don't know that anybody or some of us on the committee want to move this forward. The clear direction of the consensus of this committee for several meetings in a row, having corrected what was expected to be done and didn't get done, is to pick a broker and list the property, then make a recommendation to the full board. That hasn't been done, and here we are once again redirecting. And Mr. Copey, your indignation would carry a lot more weight had you been at those meetings. I haven't seen you here in a long time. And you ask what the urgency is. Well, if you look at the box on the right, 20% reduction in the value since March of 2019. It's about $800,000 in value lost by inaction. So I think we should stop redirecting and redirecting this committee away from its clear consensus on how to act, and let's pick a broker and make a recommendation to list the property and see what comes of it, and we can make a recommendation to the board. But I don't even really want to talk about this resolution.
Well, because I tried to include that, it's here. You're saying that you would cross out in the be it further resolved paragraph here on the second page. You're saying that you would choose option A and cross out everything else. And that's what you would like to vote on. Let's see, you would also cross off the paragraph about scheduling a committee of the meeting of the whole. So are you amending this resolution to cross off the first now therefore be it resolved, to cross off option B, C, and D, and you would have the purchasing department issue an RFQ right now? So that's how you would amend this resolution? And you're ready to vote on that? Or do you want a completely different resolution? I'm not sure.
I guess I would be interested in seeing the documents from Lee and Associates and SVN and discussing them and what their recommendations were, discussions were, and what their commission would be. And then make a recommendation, as was clearly the consensus of this board 2 months ago, if not 3 months ago.
Mr. Frost, I'm going to interrupt because it's not.
We made
I-
clear consensus at the end of what I believe would have been our June meeting. And we had clear direction to staff. And I understand the minute the meeting was over, you told Mr. Sparks and Teresa to not do what they were instructed by the committee to do, which is to seek bids. So a month was lost. And then at last month's meeting,
You're willing this to be so. The last time we had a resolution and we voted, it was 3 wanted to sell and 3 did not want to sell, so the resolution failed. Now I'm bringing, based on your requests, I am bringing a new resolution that we can vote on. And in that resolution, I included what I heard from the committee, which it was, yes, some of us want to sell, some of us don't want to sell at all, and several of us wanted to say, I'm open to these suggestions, but the full board is who should make the decision as to how to move forward. So that's what I put in the resolution. That's what's here. I just don't appreciate your saying I'm not trying to, I mean, you're welcome to bring a resolution too, but I did exactly what I thought. I did exactly what I heard from the committee last time. And now I'm making suggestions on how we can vote on this resolution today, if that's what you want to do. Mr. Copey?
I hope I can make this as dignified as possible, but it is not my understanding that we were going to accept bids to propose the property and list it. It was to evaluate the price of the property.
Okay, well, I am hearing that that this committee will not be comfortable until we have something that we vote on and make a decision. So I'm going to change this resolution to strike the first now therefore be it resolved. That this is the one that said we would bring it to the full board and let them discuss it. So we're not going to go, on this resolution, we're not going to do that. On the second now therefore, we're going to get rid of B.
Well, I'm sorry. May I interrupt?
Well, Mr. Copey, what you can do is vote no. We'll put this up, we'll put this amended.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
I'm suggesting that we amend this
Okay.
resolution according to folks who are saying that we're not doing it properly, and we'll take a vote.
All right, if we make, then go slowly and so that I can make my notes here and I'll understand it. Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Mr.
we need-
Tice.
Do we need that in the form of a motion to do this?
Well,
To
I
modify it as presented? I'm
if
just-
I give Mr. Frost and Mr. Martin what they want, that is the amended motion, and we could conceivably vote on that. Is it the will of the committee to do that or not?
Do they need to make a motion to amend in that form?
There's no resolution presented yet.
I'm
This is
sorry.
not
We
a
don't have a
resolution?
motion.
Oh, this is just a draft then? It's listed on the agenda as a resolution.
Well, okay, am I understanding the conversation here? There is a resolution on the agenda.
Which gives you the ability to take action, and you don't have to strike this one completely. It can be amended, even though it might be a lot of amendment, but you do have the opportunity, because of the agenda item being listed, of taking action on something. It may look drastically different than the one that's presented, red line and all, but you do have an opportunity to do something here this morning still.
Well, excuse me, the reason the red lines are in this particular draft is that I believe it was presented to the committee as and sent to each member of the committee as a document previously. The original, this is not the original. I would move to amend the original resolution that you sent to everybody to adopt all of the red line changes, which don't change anything in the committee, doesn't change the, it just cleans it up a little bit, is really what it does.
Okay, so your motion, Mr. Caius,
It's to adopt the red line changes only, and then we can amend the rest of it
okay,
As-
a
so-
step at
a step at a time. So
Okay.
I move that we adopt the red line changes. If we need time to go through each one of those, I don't believe it changes the context of the resolution at all. But certainly everyone should have a comment on that. And then we can, anything that's struck out in red would be removed. Anything that's in red would be added to the original document that was sent to everyone.
That's good, that's nice and clear.
So that starts the process of changing the original document as the resolution was sent to each committee member.
Okay, Mr. Caius moves that we adopt, that we vote on the redlined resolution. Is there a second?
Struggling to read the red line one at the moment.
If we need time,
I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, you're still reading it?
It's
Okay.
not particularly clear on my, on my device, so. Just trying to get to a spot where I can read it more clearly.
For the members that are at home, I just emailed you the red line version.
Actually,
Opening it now.
Did it again.
okay,
got two.
thank you. All right, is anyone,
Can we
does
just,
anyone wish to second Mr. Caius's adoption of the red line version? Okay, hearing none, seeing none.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, can we, it looks to me like they're still reading and assessing,
Oh,
at least
okay.
here. Maybe at home they are as well.
Yep, but you're
we have
correct. Yes.
If we can wait until, maybe we have a ready, set, go, as opposed to, maybe we'll all raise our hand when we're all ready. Because I've had a chance to read it, obviously, but I understand red line is complicated, or is interesting to read and certainly takes time to digest, so.
Okay.
I don't know if there's, as Mr. Copey pointed out, we've had 50 years, so give everybody maybe an extra 5 minutes.
Having now had a chance to look at it in a clearer form, thank you, Roger. I would concur with my colleague, Mr. Caius, that accepting this red line version gives us a document that then can be further amended, possibly following the position expressed by myself and Mr. Martin and Mr. Fraz. So I would second Mr. Caius's motion.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for the second. Okay. The redlined version has been moved and seconded. Gabriella, do you want to call the roll?
Are we voting on it as
Just-
this?
For clarification, Caius was first, and who was second?
Mr. Davis, second.
And,
Second.
and what are we,
And on this
Oh,
red line version.
more discussion, Mr. Copey?
So can that,
Use your mic.
can Mr. Caius's
I think you have to
motion,
turn- you have to turn on your mic.
can Mr. Caius's
Perfect.
motion be amended at this point, or how does this work?
And
No.
Mr. Caius is moving this version.
So how can it be amended?
Right now, the motion is simply to accept the red line version that Mr. Caius has offered. The underlying, item will not have been moved or voted on yet. This is only the red line version that you're saying, okay, yes, I like the effort done here. Apparently primarily by Mr. Caius to clean up some language.
I disagree with a certain whereas, so how can I amend that motion? I can amend that motion, is that correct?
Right.
Would it be better to adopt this and then amend the document as accepted as a separate motion, as opposed to,
I don't know.
Probably.
Amending of an amendment.
I'm asking the chairman. I mean, what is the proper protocol here? What is the proper protocol to amend his motion?
You want to amend the amended? You want to amend the
Yes,
amendment?
I've heard it
Okay,
done
well, in,
before.
let's see,
I believe it's possible.
Mr. Martin?
in discussion, let's, Mr. Martin?
There's been a motion, I guess, in a second, and for purposes of discussion, we're in some manner that's becoming increasingly confusing to me, endeavoring to move this matter forward. And I think all that we need to do, and I would like Teresa to address this, if in fact and we've done this before, but I want to do it again and clarify it. If in fact the majority of this committee wants to sell this property, then what we need is a consensus for our purchase, in my mind, and I want Teresa to comment on it because she's the one that's going to have to move this forward in a procedural manner. I think all we need is a consensus. Let's to Drew's point of wanting to talk to the realtors or whatever else, you know, we just need to direct staff to do what we have directed them to do before and know that it's going to happen so that we can make the decision as a committee as to whether or not we want to vote to move this forward. I'm concerned about this today is with these amendments as we sit here being made on the face, and we're talking about prices, we're talking about if I'm on the board, okay, if I'm one of the 24 members on the board that are not at this committee meeting today, and somebody says they want to list the property, pick a number for $5 million, I'm going to say, well, with whom and for and why and what are their qualifications and what should I do? It gets back to me always to the same point. The committee's responsibility is to direct staff to put something together that we as a committee can vote on and recommend. And this sitting at this meeting and working with a mishmash of red line and other stuff and putting it together and saying we're going to list the property for a dollar figure, I think is not, it's not only not moving this forward, it's causing confusion and delay. So what I would propose that we do today is that we again acquire a consensus, give instructions to our staff to give us the wherewithal that we need to vote on whether or not to sell it. And if there isn't a majority consensus, we won't do it. If there's a no vote, there's a no vote. But let's keep this straightforward and simple because if the consensus is that the majority wants to sell the property, we should give instructions enabling the staff to give us the tools to determine what that recommendation would be. So that's my suggestion. I will vote no on anything in this resolution today. I mean, my opinion, my one vote is going to be to vote no because I think it's chaos. I mean, it's like it doesn't move us forward in any organized fashion.
I'm going to just say again, the last time we had a resolution, it was a sell or no sell resolution and it failed.
So let's have it again. What?
So we're bringing it back again.
No, you're not. This is a complete adulteration of the prior motion. If you want to bring the prior motion back, then let's bring it back and vote on it today. But this isn't the prior motion. This isn't the same motion again. This is a totally different process, Deborah.
Interesting. Okay. Then as chairman, I misunderstood. And here's how I misunderstood. The members of the committee that I talked to might be willing to sell, or they might not be willing to sell, but their interest was to get as much information in front of the board as possible and talk about it. So that is the resolution that I brought. Now, maybe instead of my trying to change my own motion with the red line changes that Mr. Kai has suggested, maybe can you rework this motion to your satisfaction and then we'll take a vote on a sell, no sell resolution. At the moment, I think I have to honor what's on the table, which is Mr. Caius said he would like to see the resolution that I,
Let's vote on Mr. Yeah, I'm just, all I'm suggesting, Deborah, is that we are embarking on a process that I think requires our staff to do something different than we're doing here today. And if we just say, I want to list the property for $5 million with somebody without having looked at the somebody and evaluated the purchase price, we're not doing our job. We're just not doing it. We're just saying, here, have at it, folks.
I'm not doing your job. I'm not doing the job that you think I'm directed to do. I am doing the job that the committee has indicated to me that they're interested in.
Since you keep talking about the committee, who on the committee has suggested that we be before the committee of the whole, before we move anything forward? Who are those people on the committee?
Okay. Can we do this in an orderly way? There is currently a motion on the table and a second that this resolution that was provided in the package be changed with these red line corrections. Let's simply vote on this. If you don't care for it, vote no. If you do care for it, vote yes, and then we will continue on.
Well, and Madam Chairman, being the second on that, my purpose was only to take a small step closer to changing this further along the lines of what Mr. Martin has suggested.
Exactly.
And I don't mind skipping that step and moving directly into, into something that's more like Mr. Martin, Mr. Fraz, and myself have suggested. And if rescinding my second on this puts us that much closer to doing that, that's all I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get to a point where we do what Mr. Martin has basically just outlined for everybody.
Okay. All right. Mr. Davis withdraws his second. So, Mr. Caius, I'm sorry, your motion
I
is not going to,
I second it.
Point of order, can he withdraw his second once he's seconded it?
I'm
Can,
sorry.
can he withdraw his second once he's seconded it?
I've
Is
seen
it-
it done before.
I
don't
believe
have-
so, but
Let's vote it down. My suggestion. Call for the question.
Okay. without a
that's fine too. If there's some question about whether I can rescind the second, I'll simply state that the second can stand and I'll be voting no. And then we'll go back to, trying to achieve what Mr. Martin had just described.
All right. If there is no more discussion on the motion, then let's, no more discussion. Let's take a roll call.
Roll call to.
Now, this is, we're voting on the resolution that was in the packet, but with the redlined changes, which only change, don't change content, but change clarification, verbiage. Okay. All right, let's go.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Leonard?
Is there any way that we could make a motion to amend either the original resolution or this red line resolution to what we want to achieve here today, so we don't take another 30 days to vote on it? In other words,
Sure, we can. do it
could we
now.
have a motion to come up with a very concise resolution today that we vote on? Do we sell or not sell Fabian Parkway? Or present that to the board to make the final decision on?
Okay.
If I might, let me respond to Mr. Leonard.
Good,
I
Mr.
believe we
Davis.
absolutely, I believe we absolutely can do that, Bill. The red line changes provided by Mr. Caius don't have any profound effect on the changes that I think you and Drew and John and I are talking about. We could accept those or not, and then move to the more substantive matter of, removing the paragraph that talks about setting up a committee of the whole meeting and insert language that expresses the view that Mr. Martin had just, given us, that we want to do the RFQ, RFP, get the information so that this committee can make a recommendation and move forward. That can still be achieved today because this is an action item. The route that we take to get there has been, difficult, but we can still get there, yes.
Call the question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Leonard?
Madam Chairman, I think we can vote to either accept or not accept the amended version that Mr. Kynes came up with. Once we have done that and come to resolution on that, then we can alter the resolution to specifically what we want to accomplish today.
Correct.
If that meets with everybody else's approval. But we need to vote on this first, either yes or no. And then if it is no, then we can still amend or reconstruct a resolution to achieve what we want to achieve today.
Okay. All right. So if you want to keep amending, then let's vote no on this and we'll go on to
Madam Chairman, I
the,
think you can, whether you vote yes or no on this, you can amend it further, just continue to
Correct.
amend it. Just make
Right.
another amendment.
We have
All
to
this is
vote on it.
adopts it, cleans it up, then you can go ahead and do further amendments, as many as we wish to choose, one at a time,
okay.
and lop off this and add that.
So the first resolution that we're going to vote on is the redlined version. And
To accept the amendment, the red lines.
having worked our way through that, then we will consider additional amendments.
Roger, did you want?
I would just say this is simply a vote to approve of the amendment to the resolution. So there was a motion to amend to the red line version.
Right.
This is a motion to amend the resolution that's out there. So then you'd still have to vote on the resolution as amended,
Correct.
or you'd get subsequent motions to amend again.
Okay.
But that's where you're at in the order of events.
That's orderly. Okay. All right. So we are, the resolution in the package is being amended to include the redlined version by Mr. Caius and seconded by Mr. Davis. So we are voting on this amendment. All right? Everybody comfortable with voting on this amendment? Okay.
Davis,
Mr. Davis?
Davis, yes.
Franz,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Copey,
No.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin, Allen.
Aye. Okay. So now we have a resolution that has accepted the redlined corrections, the verbiage. Is there further discussion on the resolution? Thank you, Robert. That helps. Is there further discussion? Mr. Franz?
I would move to strike everything between the title and the signature block.
I'm sorry, you're striking all of the whereases?
You might be able to get a
We're
little
talking
more
about
certain than that, Drew.
reconstructing it. yeah.
How about the therefores?
Just so I understand, you're striking all of the whereases.
I'd like to start with a clean slate.
Okay, so,
I don't know. I just see a lot of stuff here that's irrelevant to what the original direction of the committee was.
well, even the original one had some whereases in it, but, okay. So are you keeping the first whereas? We own the property?
Start changing the clause.
This is really not,
Let me ask another question here. Would the committee like to have a special meeting where we bring in other people's ideas of what this resolution should be about? Do you want to meet again after the CAC on Monday? And we'll have any number of resolutions to consider, or do you want to just keep working at this? It's entirely the committee's.
Point of order, there's a motion on the floor.
I withdraw my motion.
I'm just wondering if we could impose on Mr. Martin, who has a tremendous amount of expertise in this area, to look at this, and if we were to strike the paragraph about committee of the whole, is there language he might offer to get us where I think we were trying to go, that as he had expressed a few minutes ago?
And Mr. Davis, Mr. Martin had his hand up, so fine, let's give him the floor. Mr. Martin?
Before we proceed further,
I'm sorry?
before we proceed further along
Okay.
this line, I would ask the indulgence of the chair that we ask Teresa to tell us what, in fact, she has to do so that we don't end up, in order to move this process forward, so that we don't end up with some resolution that has that is procedurally out of whack, to use a technical legal term. The vote here, in my mind, is as simple as, do we want to do it or not? Okay, and to Drew's point about the whereas provisions, fine, but what we need to do is to understand, before we draft anything or modify anything, we need to have the understanding as to what we need to do so that we meet the proper requirements of our purchasing department. And then we can prepare a resolution upon which we can vote and then move it forward, so we don't have the not only the lost time, but the embarrassment of not doing it in a procedurally correct manner. So I would ask that we get some assistance from our staff to that effect, so we know what we're doing.
And that's fine. And Teresa, I'm going to come to you next. I'm just going to say that the last time that we had this conversation, and Mr. Martin, I had the conversation with you after, was that I did go to staff to say, how shall we handle this? And at that time, staff was saying, you guys need to make a decision about whether or not you want to sell this property. Otherwise, we're putting out an RFQ on the maybe, on the if come, which is not fair to the people who might respond to the RFQ. Okay, now, I hope I haven't made it worse for you, Teresa, but do you care to address this? How would you want to go forward in assisting us in how to dispose of the property?
When we get direction for procurements, it's because
Mic on?
when we get directions for procurements, it's because departments have the funds and they have the authority to give us the direction to move forward. With Ricky's approval, if this is what the committee wants, we could release an RFQ to hire a broker, or send it to the three that Ricky had solicited quotes from and Roger last year. And I'm sure we'll get tons more brokers to respond as well. It's just, we didn't feel that we had consensus of the board to move forward. And the direction that you had said, that what you had talked to different board members, that not everyone was in agreement that they wanted to sell the property, which is why we have held back, given the direction we were given. So if the consensus of the committee is for us to move forward, then we can move forward with the assistance of building management.
Okay, I think that's fair. And I think, Mr. Martin, what I had said also to you was that in conversation with other members of the board, not on the committee, there were people who were interested in selling it, but they wanted to have something to say about how the property would be used in the future, which again sent me back to the idea that we should let the board discuss what they see happening with this property, which is why I brought you a resolution that put it back in front of the board. But let's carry forward. Mr. Franz?
Well, I guess I would just say that, this committee is trying to take some action and has been trying to take such action for several months. And if you as chairman leave here and then go pull board members that aren't on the committee, and with what I assume is kind of a one-sided viewpoint of this, and get their
I
opinion.
try not to be
I know,
one-sided.
but they're not on the committee. We're trying to move this through committee to another committee. So we can't conclude a meeting here and then have you go out and poll other people and get their opinions and apply their opinions to this committee.
Okay, make your changes do you feel like you can make changes that we can vote on? Can you amend this resolution at all to what you
My
want?
single vision is to do what we've discussed for quite a while, which is to instruct staff to seek quotes from brokers, bring them back to this committee. This committee will make a recommendation to take to the full board or to the next committee up the stream.
Okay, I'm sorry, we have opinions from brokers here. Are you asking for staff to bring us a broker?
Well, this is the first time I've seen these. So, if we're going to just pick the three and pick the best one, I would certainly want to see a lot more information than this one sheet. I have no idea what they're charging for commissions. This seems like a preliminary valuation to me, not a recommendation to hire a broker.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Copey, I saw Mr. Caius first, then Mr. Martin, then you. Okay, Mr. Caius?
I believe one of the arguments is therefore is to have this go back to the committee of the whole meeting, or set up a committee of the whole meeting. So I would like to move that we strike that, the first therefore, before we remove any. We remove that so that we don't start by putting it into the committee of the whole right away. It'll go to the board through its, as Mr. Davis said, through its normal channels. Then on the second page, this part of that motion to strike in that next paragraph, all of the paragraph except the very beginning, which says, be it further resolved that the Kane County Board, A, list the property for sale, period. Remove everything else in that whereas. And then I think that the last paragraph for further resolved should instruct something that we can't do. It automatically would go to the departments to have the prices and things. And so then strike that last paragraph. So it would say, be therefore, so essentially it would, besides all the whereases, which would still be in there, it would then say, be it resolved that the Kane County Board list property for sale, period. Is that what you're asking for, Mr. Frost?
Well, does it mention hiring a broker or seeking brokers?
Wouldn't that be part of the process of selling it automatically?
Well, I guess the goal.
Or does that not clear, is that too much? Is that not cleared up?
Is this a
That makes-
discussion? Is this a discussion or is this a motion?
Well, it was a motion, but if there's a second, then we discuss it, but
Mr. Sparks?
Okay. What I brought forward here is updated broker's opinion of value. So I can, more than happy to send you guys the full documents. A couple of them were 40+ pages. So when I boiled it down into a summary. So that's what you have here. I can send it out to the entire committees, all the documents, and everyone can look through it and evaluate it on their own. The second thing is that, and I don't want to speak for Teresa, is that I don't feel that we should move forward with an RFP until we get the full vote of the board to move forward with that. If we decide to do that before that, we're spinning our wheels. And if the board comes back and say, no, we don't want to sell it, then we wasted a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I think it'd be unfair to the brokers to go out and move forward with something that's not going to happen.
so, excuse me, Madam Chairman, to that point, removing everything that except that be it resolved that the Kane County Board lists the property for sale, period, doesn't instruct anyone to get an RFP. It just takes it to the next step to be discussed that we sell it. Is that the major point that we're looking? We want to sell it?
To commence, maybe to say to commence the process of listing the property for sale. And then that brings the issue before the board. And that would be the clarity of instruction, I would hope, that we could then do what we could then put out an RFQ, we could have the realtors, we could evaluate, then we could make a recommendation to the board that concurs with its instruction to commence the process of selling it.
So you would, to the amendment that I propose, you would add after the letter A on the second page, commence the process of listing
Listing the property
the
for sale.
property for sale, period.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sure.
We're eliminating, let me just
Well,
try and straighten.
sure.
Mr. Kais, you're suggesting that we eliminate the paragraph having to do with the committee of the whole, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then you're suggesting that we
The second paragraph read,
use option 8, we list, except we stop, we list the property for sale, and that's it, right there.
period.
And then, and that in the third one, we could say that the Fabian property be listed for sale
That's,
at a given price. I guess we're going to come back for a given price.
Right.
And,
wouldn't that be redundant to say, to list the property for sale and then
and we,
resolve we should be
and we
listed?
direct the purchasing department to issue a request for qualification. Does that cover it?
No. I thought that what we were talking about was the only element of the resolution would be that we want we're asking the board to vote on commencing the process of selling the property. Period. We don't put a purchase price in, we don't put the
Yeah,
name of
no.
the realtor.
That would be all out.
That's all that we say. There is no second paragraph that says this is the dollar amount or anything else. Because what we're looking for, to the assistance of the purchasing department and Ricky, is clarity that the board supports the sale of the property. So the board will either vote that they want to sell the property or not. Then, after we have the realtors and we've had a chance to address them here, and that assumes that the board approves the concept of selling the property. Then we come forward and say, this is the realtor that this committee recommends. This is the purchase price that we recommend be in the listing agreement. And then we do it. We're not doing our job if we say we're going to list it for X dollars today, and we don't even know with whom we're going to list it.
Motion that I presented, excuse me, Madam Chairman, motion I presented would remove all the rest of that paragraph.
That's right.
So we would not be listing.
Well, I know, but then the mention was made about then including the listing, the price. There will be no second paragraph then.
The second paragraph would be the one sentence. Be it resolved that the Kane County Board list the property for sale, period.
Period.
That's
Okay.
it,
If that's
period.
it, then
That's the amendment.
that's the clarity that we need to go forward.
Then the rest of the paragraph would be gone. All the other
Okay,
options.
all right,
would be
all right.
gone.
If
There
I
would be no other
misunderstood,
options.
if I misunderstood, I apologize.
No,
for
I
that.
understand.
If I'm understanding, you're looking for a resolution to sell, and we need to have we need to get a broker. We can do it in a two-step process where we take the resolution to sell to the board and then go find a broker. But I got the idea that you wanted to try and speak.
Well, we can't do that. We can't, if in fact we're going to go to the board, then we're going to go to the board and get their permission to commence the process.
Okay, all right.
And then
so
we're going to find a
this
realtor.
this is a resolution to sell. That would go to the board. The board would agree that they are interested in pursuing sale. Then staff would, with that understanding, staff would go put out an RFQ. And we would come back to the board with a listing price.
And a realtor,
I'm sorry?
a listing price and a realtor that we're recommending to the board to
Okay.
accept so that we can sign a contract.
All right, so
Don't-
that's a two-step process that you would be comfortable with.
Doesn't an action by this committee by vote, even
Mr.
though it
Davis?
moves on through the process, I'm sorry, raising my hand. Sorry. Doesn't this latest version that Mr. Caius has just, offered us give Teresa and her department the ability and Ricky to move forward with some of that broker, direction while the rest of this continues, through the committee
Well-
process, so that by the time we, that, I don't think it has to wait. Once this committee has given its direction and consensus and a vote, staff could proceed with the RFQ portion, so that as this moves forward, we'll be getting the information that inevitably everybody's going to want to, see and ask about.
Okay. Mr. Copey?
What I'm trying to understand, Mr. Martin's position is the two-part process. It's not unreasonable to go to the board with the idea and to engage a real estate agent. And one way or the other, whether you solicit, whether you, there's the real estate business has specific laws that are backed up by the state legislature. You get involved with a real estate agent, I can almost guarantee you, because I've seen it happen in my life 3 times, where the real estate business had taken advantage of me. Then, and this can take place right here. They have laws that protect them, not us. You get involved in advance of a consensus from the board with a real estate agency and solicit their services. You are bound to state legislature to state laws. And I don't want to get into that position. I don't want our committee to get us in a pickle. Now, that is maybe an outside scenario and maybe somewhat uneducated and unpracticed. And, but be that as it may, to force this committee to making a decision to engage a real estate at this point is a manipulation of the parliamentary procedure, and to take this to the county, the committee of the whole is not unreasonable. We can talk about this. This is, we're not up against the wall. There's no sweat here. Just back off and let's relax and look at all of the options and all the considerations. Why not? Why wouldn't we do that? Why would not we give that opportunity to each board member to weigh in their opinion?
Well, our process is that we are allowed to amend resolutions and vote on them. And if
Madam
we can-
Chairman?
I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Davis?
I would offer, in light of Mr. Copey's comments, and I understand some of his concern, I would suggest, and, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that in any transaction involving real estate, that multiple brokers will vie for a listing. Only one of them ultimately will achieve that. That an RFQ isn't a commitment by us to one of them until a listing agreement, a contract is signed. It's asking for their interest and their input. So I don't think that we will be putting ourselves in some precarious position, as was suggested by my colleague. It does, however, move us further down the road towards solid information, which ultimately the entire board will want to see and ultimately be able to vote on. Thank you.
So the resolution that we're trying to get to is one where the committee thinks we should list the property for sale. And with that understanding, purchasing would put out an RFQ.
Sorry.
Yes.
Would
And-
that, I'm sorry, point of clarification just for me. Just by passing this committee, would that start the RFQ?
I'm sorry, what, Mr. Caius?
Just by, I'm sorry, just by passing this through our committee as a beginning the process to list the property for sale, if that passes our committee, does that automatically start the process, or does it has to go to finance?
I believe it would allow the process. I think direction to staff
I'm
can
sorry.
come from the standing committee that they, that they come to and report to. I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, I answered out of turn again.
No, that's fine, Mr. Davis. We're trying to get to clarity here. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to ask Teresa again. She had said if we have a consensus here, she could move the process ahead, or did I misunderstand that?
We could do that. It's just that while this moved through the committee process, if a broker was selected, the chairman would not be authorized to sign the contract unless we had full board approval to sell the property.
Well, we wouldn't be choosing a broker. What we would be doing is soliciting brokers to give us quotes. Is that correct?
Is that the
Yeah.
direction? Or is it just to hire a broker to list the property to sell?
Well, I think the board has to take a look at what broker information we have, and then the board would decide, yes, we want this broker at this price. Our consensus here would give you the opportunity to go out and solicit brokers. Not committing to any broker, but soliciting a broker. And then at that point, then the board as a whole could vote on what broker they wanted at what price. But, we can't, if we can't get the process going, we need to know the most direct route to getting the process going, whether we list it or not. We need to, find out, number one, how many brokers are interested in listing it. Number two, what is the best price that we could get for it? And then number three, giving the board that information and letting the board vote on that. So you were saying with the consensus here, you could start that process. Is that correct, Teresa?
Yes, we could.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So
Well said.
do we really need to vote on this resolution? Couldn't we just table it, have a consensus vote, and then you could start soliciting brokers to give us a picture to present to the county board?
I agree with that.
I agree.
Madam Chairman, Doug Shefflo here.
Yes, hi,
How you doing?
welcome.
I have a couple of comments if I could. So we just heard Mr. Sparks, who runs the department, indicate that he doesn't want that to be done that way. He wants to know the board's serious in approving a sale before we start stirring up or going into that selection process. So that's one comment. And I do have a question too, but I think Drew kind of touched on this. He said that the valuations have gone down. I think the world changed in March, and the pre-COVID world, everything was a go, and it made sense. It might have made a different sense to proceed with this, but now, what I'm hearing, not hearing, but I know there's at least one instance where a major development in Elgin canceled. They were $1 million into land development, and they canceled. Now, maybe it'll come back someday, maybe it won't, but it's to me, maybe not an ideal time to go into, or at least to rush into an attempt to sell this property. Maybe a year from now, post-election, post-COVID, there might be a boom on real estate. I would appreciate broader county board support than 4 members of one committee determining actions, because we do function as a board. Those are my comments. I do have a question. Is there anything in the multi-use building financing that requires the sale of this property by a certain time or somewhere close in time? I mean, we're not counting on this revenue to complete that building or anything, or make bond payments.
No.
No, absolutely not.
Mhm.
Okay, so that would just reduce, or would the proceeds of the sale even pay down that debt, or would it go into capital, replenish the building fund maybe? Huh? Do we know?
To be determined, Doug. Decision to be made later on it.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, sorry
Yes.
for the
Mr.
interruption.
Davist?
I am moments away of having to leave the meeting. But if by consensus of the committee alone, Teresa is able to begin the process, we've been to that point before. So I guess I would just ask you if you're comfortable with that and she's comfortable with that, and it's allowed to proceed that way, then I think we've achieved some of what we were trying to do this morning.
I appreciate you're trying to find a compromise, but I believe that what our staff is saying is that they don't want to go on a wild goose chase for a request for qualification if the board has not directed them to sell the property, to be serious
Well,
about selling.
let me respond this way then. I know that in human services over the years, when we have gone to look for new insurance brokers, we,
Okay.
as the committee, have gotten responses from many brokers and then gone through an interview process, narrowing that down to our favorite 2 or 3 before presenting it to the full board. And I
Sure,
guess I don't
but-
see how
but
this
Ms.
is vastly different. We're
But-
trying to do our job as a standing committee here, gather information that will be valuable and essential, in fact, to the rest of the board weighing in on this. But we need to do that first, do our job. And I guess I would ask staff to please recognize that and, follow our
Davis,
direction.
Can I ask you, is there not a distinction is there not a difference in the fact that we know we're going to buy insurance? So now we're looking for the best deal and the most amenable partner that we can find. And here we have a real philosophical discussion about whether we want to sell this property or not.
Yes, I acknowledge your point, but I don't think we'll be able to answer the questions that people will rightfully have about the sale of the property without some professional input from said brokers.
You mean
It's not my intention to send any of them off on a wild goose chase, but
I'm
as I
sorry,
said,
I
before,
didn't mean to be glib.
no, that's fine.
But
I think in the real estate arena that they vie for listings and they don't always get it. I don't think we're asking them to do something extraordinary by responding to an RFQ and beginning to give us a clearer picture, a more focused, ability to present to the rest of the board and the other committees.
so you're saying that you think the board would make a distinction between if the property is worth $1 million or if the property is worth 3 million about whether they would want to go forward. And so
I would
you'd like a broker to tell them that.
I would certainly think it would be a significant factor, value of it, yes.
That was a reason to have a committee of the whole where we could discuss how important it was. I'm sorry, Mr. Kais, did you just hold up a sign for me that
Well, no,
I couldn't read?
I did. My understanding was the broker opinion value's already been presented. It was given out this morning. this is a valuation of the property, is that correct?
Sure,
So we've already got the valuation of the property, at least preliminarily,
fairly recently, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
And if, excuse me, if it's okay.
Sure.
If we just do a consensus, we could have done that months ago with the consensus. What was asked for by Mr. Frost and Mr. Martin was an action item, a resolution that we could vote on to sell the property. I believe that with the changes, removing the county board committee of the whole and keeping it simple to begin the process of the listing the property for sale, maybe not in exact that language, but to list it for sale, to move it on for sale, that accomplishes everything. And in that very simple thing, that's what you've asked for, is to
That's true.
sell it. Or
Did you offer that as a motion, Mr. Caius?
That, yes, it's about 20 minutes ago. That's the
Okay.
motion on the floor. We were just honing it down.
Do we
Yeah,
have a
which would-
second?
Which would be remove the first paragraph, change the other one to just begin the process for the sale, and remove the third paragraph. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm just going to clarify. We're keeping all of the, and Roger, you'll help me with this? We'll keep all the whereases in place, but we will remove the paragraph that says, now therefore, it will remove the paragraph having to do with the committee of the whole, that we just remove that entirely. So the next one is, be it resolved that the Kane County Board list the property for sale.
Begin the process of listing the property for sale. Is that correct, Mr.?
If,
I'm sorry, what?
Commence the process.
Commence the process? Commence the process of listing the property for sale.
oh, if
Yeah.
you will, I took the liberty of synthesizing what he was saying into a document, if that works.
Thank you, Roger.
It's the sale, okay. That the,
Well,
can you see this, is this up on the board too?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, Mr. Kobe, I'm just going to read this.
I would not endorse including that.
Okay, that the county board recommends the sale of the property. Be it further resolved that the county board authorizes the purchasing department and building management department to solicit a request for an RFQ to hire a broker for the purpose of selling the property. And that the property be listed for sale, subject to offer or at a price determined by the county board. Okay, so this,
I'm sorry, I think that convolutes it, puts us again with the process ahead of the finding a consensus of whether we really want to sell it. We have the price right here.
Well, we don't have a price.
Isn't this a list of prices?
We have not evaluated the real, I'm sorry.
We- We have a range that may not
Yeah.
even be fresh anymore.
Well,
okay,
I think we discussed that if we were going to get it new again, it would set us back a couple months. So this is what was asked for.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kais, do you want a range of prices in here, or do you want to leave it?
No prices. My motion is, I would have it is just to begin the process of listing the property for sale. And that gives the people an option for the rest of the board to work on it and find out what the prices are as it goes through the process. We have to decide whether we want to sell it.
Isn't that what Roger's version says here?
Well, I believe it says that that we authorize them to get prices.
If I may,
Well, it's subject to offer at a price to be determined by the county board. Presumably, I don't know when that happens.
Can you
the first part would just
request
simply,
I'm sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, you're
The
writing.
first
this so you
part
can hear.
just would identify that the board recommends the sale of the property. The second part is authorizing to go get a RFQ for the purposes of hiring a broker. The three opinion of value that you have were simply in-kind opinions. They're not hiring a broker. We haven't hired.
I'm going to go and get them there.
to advertise or sell. So this would essentially be our agent selling our property. You'd get a group of those that would submit proposals. This committee would ultimately recommend hiring one.
I'd ask for a moment so that I can read this through,
Okay.
please. It's
Mhm.
hard to read up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Caius, what did you say?
I'm sorry. Could I ask a moment for, to be able to, for everyone to read and digest what's on the board up here? Is that correct? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Mr. Frost, did you want to speak?
I know we have a motion and a second on the floor, but
No, wait a minute.
No,
Mr. Caius, think has the motion. Are you proposing to second his?
no, I'm saying I'm acknowledging
It
that
was-
we're in the middle of a motion and a second.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
I guess this,
well, second, this, yeah, you're right.
so
Oh, this is discussion.
this is discussion, then I would say,
You want to call for the
Do we
question?
have a second on this?
no, I don't. I
I'm
think-
sorry. Do we have a second on this, on Mr. Caius's motion?
I think Davis.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's-
Mr. Davis second.
Oh, this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay,
Um,
discussion, Mr. Frost?
So we're about to lose Mr. Davis, relatively small committee, so I think that would be important if we were to lose him. I can't see us rewriting this entire document in the next few minutes. You know, I would say,
I'm sorry, Mr. Frost, could you
I-
just speak a little bit?
I can't see us rewriting this entire document as a committee in the next few minutes. I mean, we haven't even started on the first page, we're just on the second page. You know, I would be open to just tabling this issue till next month, and maybe we can work on a document in the meantime, but just a thought.
Okay, so you want a table to get a clear copy?
I'm not making a motion, I would, but we're in the middle of another.
Well, as I understand it, a table supersedes. Did you want a table?
I'll make a motion to table this discussion until next month.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry?
I'll second.
You'll second? Okay. Let's vote on the table.
Davis?
To table,
Correct.
no, I'd prefer that we vote and have the yes to recognize the sale, so.
I'm
no,
sorry,
Davis,
Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, I'm losing you. Can you say that again?
On the motion to table, Davis, no.
Frost?
Yes?
Caius?
Caius, no.
Copey?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Allen? Okay, passes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martin?
I said yes.
No?
It was a yes.
Yes.
It was a yes.
Yes,
Okay.
the tabling
and-
passes.
Oh, well, yes. Okay. Having tabled this then, let's go over what our goal is here.
All
And
right.
our goal
Um,
is to,
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna step away now, but I'll catch you all in the next one.
I'm sorry?
He had to
I
leave.
think
Even
Davis
signed off.
left.
He left.
He left. Bye, thank you.
Well, we can't do anything, so.
Okay. All right, so, all right, so the goal is to have a resolution closer to the one that Mr. Caius suggested? Or do you want to bring in, Mr. Martin? Go right ahead.
I found Roger's proposed draft to be very articulate and very much on point. And I think it meets the substance of what Chris is talking about. And what I'd like to see is a resolution prepared that for us to vote on that embodies Roger's language. That's what I'd like to see as before us next month. I'll be glad to assist in drafting that. You know, the state's attorney's office can draft it, anybody can do it, but that's what I, as one person, would like to see. I think it brings the issue clearly before the committee for its review.
Okay. So your direction is for a resolution to sell. And we'll vote
That's
it up
what
or down.
Yeah, because we've asked for that 2 or 3 times to have a motion to clearly vote on. That would, with Rogers in there, that would give us that
Okay. Other
opportunity.
discussion? Mr. Copey?
We almost had a resolution, but the one hangup that I have to reiterate is, for my own conscience is I do not think it is proper for us to order up a listing for the property that would be the purview of the entire board. So to have that within the resolution, I would avoid that. Yes, you just won't get my support.
Okay, I'm going to move back to the agenda. Under new business, we are still looking at IT's fee study for trying to collect money from special revenue funds and so on. Mr. Leonard?
Like to move that? Is that a resolution?
Mr. Fonsack,
Oh.
did you want to move forward at this time?
At this time, we just ask that they table it for another 30 days. We're not prepared to present that right now.
I think there's more discussion just going on, if that's okay. All right, then resolution authorizing an energy services agreement with Kane County, and
Do we need
You need to table
a
for
motion
30
for
days.
A for 30 days? A motion to table for 30 days on A first. But we'll need to take a vote to table it for 30 days before we move on. That's what he's requesting for A.
okay.
So we need to take a vote.
Oh, because it's on the agenda.
Correct.
Okay, I see, all right. Can I have a motion to table the IT resolution on the fee study? And that was Mr. Leonard. Is there a second, Mr. Frost? Okay, let's take a vote on that. Any
Copey?
discussion? Let's take a
On a
vote on it.
tabling. Copey?
For table?
Yes.
That's a yes.
Davis is gone. Frost?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, Alan?
Yes. Aye.
Now item B.
Okay, and the next item is a resolution authorizing an energy services agreement with Kane County. That was in our packet, wasn't it?
So, yes.
Okay. Pull that up.
On this.
Okay, good. Can I have a motion on this and a second? Mr. Frost moves, Mr. Caius seconds, discussion.
Yes. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. So I have a big problem and an issue with this moving forward. This is a function of building management and facilities. And I feel very strongly that this is not something that the sheriff should be doing. If he wants this done, I think he should come through building management in order to move this forward. I don't understand the whole purpose of this and why he wants to get it done. And I think it's problematic that we have someone outside of building management trying to conduct energy efficiency study.
And did he get to this, or did the process get to this vendor by using the regular protocol for letting people come in and offer their services?
Well, there was a long discussion that started sometime last year where this was brought forward. There was an evaluation process that was done where several vendors were brought in to a proposal to bring forward. And I think this is what this is. It finally ended up selecting a vendor to move forward with the evaluation process.
Okay, fine. Any further discussion on this? I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Mr.
Is there a
Caius?
representative from the sheriff's office?
Oh, Mr. Kadich
Could
is still
speak-
here. Do you want to?
Could speak to that?
Do you care to speak to this, Mr. Kadich?
The only thing I can say is the sheriff's office is responsible to the taxpayers for his facility.
No, it's not his facility. So we need to start with a definition of who owns the property. The county owns the property, not any elected official.
Okay. We're all working for the common good. And so we'll follow our protocols. And this entity has been selected at $9,000.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Frost?
Yeah, I would just say that, again, this committee and this director are responsible for these actions. And if they're coming from a third party and by, essentially making their own decisions. I don't know why we're here. You know, this could evolve into every department handling their own buildings and grounds. You know, Mr. Sparks is tasked with handling these type of things, and if he doesn't recommend it, I'm not going to vote yes for it.
Other discussion? Ready to, Mr. Caius?
Just a hope that we would get some, in the future, get some interaction between the sheriff's department and the department maintenance so that we can resolve it prior to coming to this. That makes sense?
Okay.
Teresa.
Teresa.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, this process has been going on for a year now. Staff was directed last fall to release an RFQ. We did that for the sheriff. It was advertised with the Capital Development Board. There were several proposals that were received. Amerisco was according to the regulations, an architect was required to review the proposals. So Cordigan Clark did review the proposals. They were scored. The committee conducted interviews. Amerisco was selected as the most qualified firm to do this. However, the catch is there's a $9,000 fee to be paid if the county does not move forward with the recommendations that Amerisco provides to the county, which is where Ricky has the problem with that, because technically that should come from his budget because he's over facilities. So the recommendation from Joe Lulvis was that this should go before the county board because it wasn't just, oh, they're going to do this for free. If the county doesn't accept their recommendation and move forward with whatever construction or whatever they come up with that should be done, it's going to cost the county $9,000. So
Okay.
on the advice of Joe Lulvis, that's why it was brought to this committee.
On the advice of Joe Lovas, what?
On the direction from Joe Lulvis, he said the full board needs to be aware of what is involved in this agreement, which is why it started here.
Okay. The idea is that the vendor would make his money on the improvements that we agree to pay for.
Correct.
And if we don't agree to make those improvements, then he wants to get some money anyway.
Then,
And that's the
then
9,000.
according to the agreement, they would be paid $9,000 by the county.
Okay. Well, that makes it a lot more interesting. More discussion here, Mr. Leonard?
Yeah, Teresa, I'd just like a little better explanation of that. So basically what you're telling us is that the sheriff would like to hire this energy audit done. If we agree as a county to incorporate those corrections, we'll pay for those, but there won't be a fee. If we don't, there's a fee. So they haven't started their audit process yet at all?
They have not, because Ricky Sparks has his own energy efficiency program for the county.
And where is that?
Well, it was been put on hold ever since this whole initiative started with the energy efficiency thing. We were in the middle of a process of doing some energy efficiency, changing out LED lights. I've sent the email, I have it here, that I sent to the sheriff and asked him and let him know that I was on. He said he was fine with it. Please move forward. About a month later, I find out that he put a hold on the process that was going forward. And we had a big discussion with the chairman and everyone else that my energy efficiency program would be put on hold until we go through this evaluation process. I'm still of the mind that this is a building management process. Actually, Teresa sent me an email from, I believe it's ComEd or NICOR, that they would conduct the energy efficiency process for free. So, and most our utility companies will do that. And my biggest issue is that when this process was to move forward, who's going to pay for those improvements? Whose budget is it going to come out of?
And I understand your position. I guess my one disappointment in this whole situation is that because of a potential $9,000 expense, we totally tabled all the energy efficiency studies for a year.
Yes, and that's my biggest problem. It got tabled as a result of the sheriff instructing my staff to seek and desist from doing what they were doing at that time. Until we had this discussion, we went through this whole process, and we're still on hold.
Okay.
And
Is it possible to finish the work that we had started and get that done and then do the efficiency study?
Well, we've been on hold for nearly a year now, so with our energy efficiency process.
Where, can I ask where that decision came from?
Which
Put
decision?
it on hold?
That came from the sheriff to put it on hold. I instructed my staff to not move forward. And then there was a meeting. Mr. Leonard was there, I was there, the sheriff was there. I think Ed was there and a few other people. And it was put on hold until we went through this process.
And that's just for that building, not, or is our whole
Well-
countywide or just that one building?
It was just that one building.
No, I just know there's been some other things, you know, we're looking at a document where Corrigan Clark's been asked by the chief judge and Mr. Naughton to, you know, look into expanding the JJC. You know, none of these individuals have ever come to this committee. And I think if we start setting precedent that people just kind of go out on their own and tell our on-staff or on-call architect to just start doing projects is a slippery slope. I think everything should have to be run either through this committee or at least through Ricky, and he can decide whether to bring it to the committee or not. So I'm just leery about this project.
Okay. I think we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Martin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martin, sorry.
I,
The sun is coming in over there. I have trouble.
I'm just find myself confused as to why we have more than one energy efficient study under discussion. I mean, the county, to Ricky's point, the county owns everything. If we've got a study, then it's the county should do it. I don't understand and maybe there's a reason, but I understand why we would have a different one for the jail than we would have for the courthouse or whatever.
Can I, for clarification, can I ask what was put on hold? The project and the amount of money involved and whose budget was paying for it?
Well, our energy efficiency, we're budgeted every year $150,000. So we were going through and we're in the process of changing out the LED light to LED lights within the jail. That process was put on hold.
Okay, that was a long-term plan as part of our sustainability protocol,
Yes,
and you had made arrangements to do that
it was in process.
in process, and we just stopped that cold.
Yes.
Am I going too far to say that that represented some low-hanging fruit and a vendor who comes in to make recommendations could make some money off of that low-hanging fruit? And if we did it beforehand, then that low-hanging fruit wasn't available to make money off of?
And that's correct.
Okay. All right. So so rather than finish up that project, that $150,000 project, we are now faced with a proposal from a vendor who would like to have similar improvements done, but from which he could conceivably earn a fee.
Yes.
Okay. Who is going to pay for the $150,000 project that's on hold?
Well, that's the project that we do. My capital budget every year is $150,000 that we use, and we go through and make efficiency changes. So that's part of my budget that's been on hold.
So that was a commitment that we made, the county made to sustainability,
That's, yes.
and, that building management built into its budget to carry out our plan for sustainability by doing so much per year.
Yes.
And we're in the process of carrying out our plans to live up to our sustainability promise,
Yes.
but then we put it on hold in order to seek vendors?
Well, in defense of the sheriff, and believe me, I totally understand Mr. Sparks' position on this. I have no problem with it. But I would like to kind of give a little clarification for the motivation of the sheriff to go out and do this. What had happened was he had spoken with this energy efficiency company, and they said, we can make improvements to your building. And the savings that you're going to have every year will pay back any cost. So over a 5-year period or 7-year period, I think that's basically what they're saying. Now, the interesting thing about, go ahead.
Well, you say these savings, where the savings going to come from that he's going to be able to benefit when I pay all of the utilities?
Yeah. Well, I think he meant the county, and I understand your position. His intention was not to try to override Mr. Sparks or the administration committee. He thought he could get some energy efficiency projects done at no cost to the county.
Okay.
And that was his intention. So I understand your position. I'm not disagreeing with it. I think everything does have to come through this committee and through Mr. Sparks. But I don't want anyone to think that the sheriff was trying to overstep his authority. He just thought he had an opportunity here to save the county money without any money out of pocket. And that was his intention.
The sheriff hasn't done anything against our interests that I can see ever.
Yes.
Can I ask this? Do you feel, presumably, the reason that we were going to put this stuff in place was for the same reason, to save money for the county.
Yes.
Should we go ahead with this project as part of our sustainability program?
Well, I think that's up to Mr. Sparks. He manages the buildings and that's his decision. So
Okay.
I'm not asking him to incorporate any other issues or processes that he's not comfortable with. Ultimately, he has the responsibility of the buildings. But I didn't want anybody to think that the sheriff was trying to overstep anybody's authority. I think he was new to being the sheriff. Maybe he didn't understand the process totally. And he thought, here's a way to save the county money
Sure.
or have improvements made that won't cost us any out-of-pocket money.
Absolutely. Well, can
So-
I ask this? Can we do it in an order? Could we do this project and get it done? And then look for the next set of improvements?
I'm sure the sheriff would be more than open to that if Mr. Sparks is.
What I don't want, if you guys decide to move forward, is a commitment to me to make all of these improvements immediately. I have a 5-year plan, a study that we have for the most needed items. And I want to make sure that that doesn't get superseded by something that is brought forward here.
How about this as a compromise? Could we see what your plan is for the foreseeable future? And the money involved and the budgets involved, and take a look at that, and then see if the sheriff wants to go beyond that once those are accomplished. Is that?
We'll never get to the point where you guys fund enough to do that. My presentation to the committee of the whole is coming up, and that information will be in there, the 5-year plan for all of the things that we feel are needed immediately to be taken care of. So that's in there. And that doesn't always get fully funded for the items that are brought forward. So again, that building currently right now is the newest building the county owns. So for us to go and spend an enormous amount of money on the newest building when we have buildings like this one and others that are a lot older that need more attention is problematic to me.
All right, Mr. Frost?
Ricky, excuse me, Ricky, if we were to not approve this today, I assume then you could restart your study, and am I understanding that right? Could we, how soon would that, how much would it take to restart that?
It wouldn't take much. It's a matter of bringing back out the vendor that we had, making these changes. So it wouldn't take any time at all to move
Yeah,
forward.
I don't see any point in taking a little side trip with this study when we can just conclude what our building and grounds director has already started. So I would encourage that we vote this down and encourage, direct Mr. Sparks to restart his pre-existing program that was put on hold.
More discussion? Okay, Gabriella, could you call the roll?
Davis is gone. Froz,
No,
Caius,
Caius, no.
Hopi,
No.
Leonard? Martin?
No.
Allen?
All right, we will move forward in a steady way. Okay. All right, old business, I'm gonna, anyone who would want to bring anything up for the good of the cause? Okay, may I have a motion and a second to put the reports on file? Mr. Kais, I see, Mr. Froz is a second. Good, call the roll on that.
Froz,
yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Hopi,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Allen?
Aye. Okay, no need for executive session, no reason to make you suffer any longer. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Otherwise, we can stay.
Gosh.
All right, Mr. Copey, Mr. Kaya seconds,
Can do an all in
and
favor.
this can be a voice vote. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Folks, thank you for the time.